Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your second Rangers review briefing of the day. A double helping of myself and Chris to tide you over, and that is because John Bennett has been speaking to the supporters via Rangers TV. He's given it a 22-minute interview, which you can go and watch on the Rangers TV channel or on their social media accounts as well, folks, to react to what we've just witnessed. Chris joins me. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad. Since I last spoke to you, it's been a busy day of chasing transfer things. We knew that this John Bennett interview was coming out as well, so I've been on that case all day. And the sun has finally come out just as I prepare to finish for the day. So might even go and sit in the garden and reflect on another hard day at the coalface once we're finished here.
Super stuff. There you go, folks. That is what goes into the work here at the Rangers Review. Right, let's get stuck in. Susie Seep gets in touch. You're muted. Let us know if you can hear us, folks. I think we're coming through loud and clear from my end. Anyway, the big talking point, the first thing he addressed, Chris, was the Ibrox situation. Now, long story short, he says they hope to be back at Ibrox by the end of September, but it's an aspiration. He cannot give a timescale. I'll read you a quote that he said. He said, when I think about timelines, it is an aspiration at this stage because, again, I am caveating it and there is still uncertainty. If I think about timelines, clearly it is about the timeline of us returning to our home, which we all desperately want. Clearly after the September international break, and it is a case of how long after the September international break we can aspire for that to be at the end of September, but it is an aspiration. I am sorry that I have to caveat this. It frustrates me so much that I have to caveat it, but I think I have given the reasons I have to caveat it. The shipping situation, yes, I can have an aspiration to get our people back into their home for the final game of September, but yes, it could slip beyond that. Now, the reason he went into detail about the delays to the shipping, basically the steel, the shipment is on 3 separate containers, and the first of those has arrived in Glasgow, but 2 further vessels are not due to arrive until the 2nd and 3rd weeks of August. They are coming from Asia, and that is what we are awaiting at this moment in time. Think we'll be doing well to get back into Ibrox by the end of September, Chris. I think it's going to be, listen, I think if that is the case, then brilliant, but I wouldn't hold out much hope of that happening.
No, I think that's it's no surprise that was the first question in the interview, because that's the most important issue for the fans. And we speak a lot about transfers and the rebuild that's going on in terms of the work the manager's doing, but the fans just want to know when they will get back into Ibrox to be able to go and watch their side once again. And if you're being optimistic, I think you say it's end of September. I think if you're being realistic, and we know how some of the issues that Rangers have faced already, we know how some of these projects can unfold. I think the chairman was doing his best there to put a date in people's minds to give them something, but he mentioned the word caveat half a dozen times in that lengthy answer. I think that probably tells its own story. It's not going to be a quick fix. This the fact that the materials are still, obviously, as John outlined, one container or one shipment is here. By the time you get to the 2nd and 3rd week of August for the other ones, I'm no building expert. I don't claim to know the ins and outs of the project, but it would seem a bit of a stretch to then turn around everything in that in that time frame to get Rangers back in there after that international break. So I think we'll be heading to Hampden for quite some time yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's pretty ambitious to think we'll be back there by the end of September. But let's hope the steel is very much on its way and the construction workers get to it. But he did say that, I mean, it's not just Rangers that have been affected by this. William also has been affected. He says, I waited 9 weeks for a door handle to come from Ireland, so I know his problems. So there you go, William also encountering these delays. But on the issue of supporters relocating to Hampden, he says he's hopeful of communication by the end of this week with regards to season ticket holders and where they will be sat in Hampden. So, I think the fans need to know where they're going to be sat in Hampden. He did say that by the end of the week, he's hopeful of communication with regards to that. CGM55 says, Derek, come back in 11 minutes. I'm only halfway through the interview. Not impressed so far. Just put playback 1.5 or something, buddy, and then race through it and then come back and join the show. He thanked the SFA and SPFL for their assistance with regards to securing Hampden. Says, when I got the call in June that those assurances that the board had received, both written and verbal, that all was on time, and I was told that was not the case, then you've got to get a grip of it and you have to implement contingency. Now, what I wanted from that moment when we realised we had to decant, and we are not the first club that has had to decant, and we won't be the last. I said to the board that the number one aim here as we decant is maximise the number of our fans that can follow their team and minimise the disruption to those fans. For me, of course, the prime choice, and we had some choice and some options, for me, prioritise Hampden for our fans. We know the geographic dispersion of our season ticket holders, etc. So a stadium big enough to house them and minimise the disruption. That is why it was all systems go for Hampden. So that is why Hampden was his preference over Murrayfield. And there was a suggestion of playing at Ibrox and just sort of closing off the Copeland Road stand. Do you think it's probably the best option, Chris, decanting to Hampden?
I think it's out of all the options on the table. I think it is probably the best one. The playing at a three-sided Ibrox was never really something that was in favour of. You're then that we speak so much about the Ibrox factor, certainly in European nights. We speak a lot about that fact. I think that would have been a major loss. And it's then, what do you then do with those several thousand season ticket holders? Do they then just get reimbursed? Do you then try and accommodate them in different areas of the stadium for certain matches? I think that would have been too complicated. I don't think it would have been a worthwhile exercise for Rangers. It came down to Murrayfield or Hampden. John has outlined there why Hampden has eventually got the nod, if you like. But as you said, when you mentioned his previous answer about tickets and the fans getting to know where they're going to be sitting, Hampden causes its own issues in that regard. If you are a Copeland season ticket holder, the view you get from the Copeland is good. If you then end up behind the goal at Hampden, the view is not good, as we've spoken about so often on the show over the years. So the fans deserve openness, honesty. They've finally got that from the chairman. Now this interview has been a long time in the pipeline. They finally got some words from the chairman. I doubt it will answer all of their questions as soon as the ticket arrangements are made public in the coming days. People will have their questions. You're never going to be able, in a situation as unsatisfactory as this, you're never going to be able to satisfy every single person. People will rightly have their complaints. They'll rightly have issues with it. Ultimately, the club and the chairman and the team, the manager, they need the fans just to stick with them through this period. But that's easier said than done. And the fans, they put their money in. They show their loyalty on and off the pitch, season after season. So it's fine saying, we need the fans to come with us and we apologise and we're sorry. But it is asking a lot of people to go through this, through this situation when they are very much the innocent party and the ones that you have to feel most sorry for here. Yeah,
most certainly. He also discussed finances and the figure he mentioned at the club's AGM, the 10.5 million loss last year that needs fixing. He says it's a cultural change at the club and he's working really hard at addressing that, and that ties in with the player trading model. And he says for too long, Rangers have been focused on addressing the short term, bringing in players for the short term and not looking at the long term. And he also mentioned, obviously, Philip Clement coming in, and he says he's certainly bought in with what they're trying to do at the club. And he says the manager says it's a bigger rebuild than what he thought when they had a discussion at the tail end of May, I think it was, that he mentioned in the interview. And thing is, I mean, he's got a point there, Rangers, and that's why we've seen so many young lads being brought in at the start of the window, Chris. For me, it's not necessarily just buying short-term players. It's probably buying the wrong players and not being able to sell the players on at their maximum value at the correct times.
This player trading model, it's been, how many times has it been discussed, debated, talked up, talked down over the last few seasons? I think it was actually John, an interview with the Club TV a couple of seasons ago, that put player trading as like the fourth pillar, as you like. Now he spoke about the other three aspects of the club that during his time he had seen rebuilt, and the final one at that stage, as far as he was concerned, was this player trading model. He has to admit, and I think he does in an interview, it's clearly not working anywhere near the level that Rangers need it to. During the AGM and the accounts back in November time, he labelled it as sporadic wins. Those sporadic is putting it kindly. Now you're looking at Nathan Patterson and Calvin Bassey, even Joe Aribo. It's not a huge fee that Rangers got back there. It has to improve. Rangers have to improve the academy structure. They need more players to come through and then be sold on. They need to improve the recruitment at a certain level so that the team is successful first and foremost. There's no point in buying players and selling them before they've actually won anything. Ultimately, Rangers are judged, but they're judged on medals. But you're then, as a player, if you are successful, other opportunities will then come for you. But that process, that entire process has not been operating sufficiently well enough over recent seasons. It's something that has to improve. And as you say there, Derek, it's not a case of not buying or not selling at the right levels. Ultimately, it comes down to not buying and selling the right players. The recruitment over recent seasons, it's not been good enough. There's not been enough players coming in. You think, well, he could turn a profit. So it's definitely something that there's a real a huge room for improvement in. And as John was talking about the £10.5 million deficit that he's outlined at the AGM, all of these things tie into the financial success of the club, but more important, the sporting success of the club. It's not when I think the accusation, it becomes too easy to throw at them to say Rangers aren't spending any money. Rangers, for where they are spending an awful lot of money. They're just not spending it properly. That's a bigger issue. You cannot run a club at a £10.5 million deficit every single year and just expect someone else to pick up the tab. So I think John has outlined some of the reasons for that there. That is unsustainable, but buying the wrong players at the wrong price and not selling the right players at the right time, again, is unsustainable financially and in football terms. All of those, so they're two separate points, but both of them marry together.
Yeah, he did say that football clubs are generally wasteful with resources, that Rangers included. So he's tried to address that. There's been personnel changes he talks about. And like you said, he tries to a cultural change at the club as well. On the manager, of course, as well. And there's been some, certainly in the last few weeks, perhaps thinking that the manager might walk away, given his comments to your good self, Chris, over at the training camp in Holland, and about being told something in October and now being something quite different to the here and now. But John Bennett said that he's all in, and he's the chairman's got full belief in the manager as well. So that should perhaps calm a few nerves that he might be looking elsewhere, perhaps.
I think one of the other points that John makes in the interview is Rangers having to end this cycle. Now, he's fully aware that you cannot go into a season, put a lot of money into a manager and then sack him 3-4 months later. That's wholly unsustainable on every level. So it's fine saying that you believe Clement will succeed. It's fine thinking that he will succeed. Rangers need him to succeed. I think we've seen enough so far to suggest that he could. I think the way that the season ended last year put some doubts in people's minds. Stevie actually addressed a bit of that on the show this morning. I have more doubts now than I did a few months into his reign, but I think there is just about enough credit in the bank, and there's time for him to win. Whatever percentage of the fan base do have doubts or do have concerns, the best way to win them over is to go and win games of football. Now that starts on Sunday or on Saturday, through at Tynecastle. That then feeds into the games at Hampden, feeds into the Champions League, feeds into the Old Firm. If Rangers don't start the season well, we all know how this is going to unfold. As James says there, we speak of this cycle. That type of chat, that narrative will only build if Rangers don't start the campaign well. So mistakes have been made, no more so than ultimately the Michael Beale appointment and the backing that he received. I think John references that as well about some of the mistakes that have been made at that. In those regards, over the last couple of seasons, Rangers cannot afford Clement to be another mistake, because if he is, we know how this movie ends.
I don't think that the problem is the manager. I think Rangers have got a very good manager at the helm just now. He needs the tools to work with. He needs funds to go and improve that squad. And time is ticking, like you say, Chris. Tynecastle at the end of the week. I am worried with this squad that they're capable of going over there and getting a result. I think it's clear that this squad needs reinforcements, and quickly. He also mentioned the CEO search, and he says it was sort of stalled a little bit while he was addressing the Ibrox and what have you, but he says he should have news on that very soon. That'll be a positive, Chris. I think that's a position that needs filled.
It does. It's something that we spoke about when James Bisgrove left the club earlier on this summer. It then became clear that John was going to take on that role of executive chairman, that he was going to oversee a transfer window. He was going to drive a transfer window, because ultimately that was, at that stage, the main focus. The Ibrox issue also then came into play as well. And it's safe to say that John's to-do list has been lengthy over these last couple of weeks and the last couple of months. In time, a new CEO has to come in. It's impossible for one man to be chairman and chief exec of a club like Rangers. We do need a chief exec to come in. I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago about some of the characteristics that we'd like to see in that appointment. It's such an important appointment for Rangers. You have to get that right, because everything ultimately flows down the philosophy, the standards, the ambition, the way of working, the communication, both inside and outside the club. Everything flows down, and the chairman, also the figurehead of that, the chief exec, the man that's on the ground day to day. Rangers have to get that right, because if you have the wrong man in that position, that then filters down into so many different areas of the football club.
Yep. William says, just on Hearts, he says, have you seen Hearts results, Derek? Yeah, I've just seen that you pumped by Fleetwood recently, didn't they? I think they've had a bit of a nightmare in pre-season. I think both teams might lose on Saturday, given what we've witnessed recently. But yeah, you're quite right, William. We've not had the best of pre-seasons. Gordon, with the point, I think we addressed it at the top of the show, Gordon, says, when will I know where my £850 season ticket equates to in Hampden? John Bennett did say you should hear by the end of the week in relation to where your seat is at Ibrox, how that sort of equates to Hampden. But yeah, that interview available to watch, 22 minutes long, folks, over on the Rangers TV channel and on the social media accounts as well. Those were the sort of highlights. I don't think we've missed anything, Chris, off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, the supporters, but a lot of comments saying they wanted to hear more from the chairman. I think the thing is with these Rangers TV interviews, I think so many people have so many different questions they would like to point towards the chairman. I'd imagine the AGM might be pretty lively when it comes around, but yeah, that is the interview. We are calling for it. He did say he would give a personal update at the end of July, so that is it, folks. I'll pop the link to the video in the description to this video just below as well, so you can go and watch it in your own time. Right, I think we'll wrap up there. Big thanks to Chris, who's now going to go outside and enjoy the Kaluk sunshine. Make sure you get cream on, Chris.
Well, I'm not quite as susceptible to it as your good self, Derek, but I've still got a wee bit to do. Still a wee bit of work to go and do first, just to go through the rest of the Bennett Q&A. The full Q&A is actually on our website for people to go and read. If they don't want to watch it, they can go and read everything. I think it's about 3,500 words long, so a bit of work just to finish off on that. And then I'll be joining you once again tomorrow morning, no doubt, a bit more John Bennett fallout, no doubt there'll be a transfer rumour doing the rounds as well. So it's never dull in the world of Rangers.
No, absolutely isn't. What I'll do is instead, I'll pop the link to the article on the website and the link below as well, folks. Those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members as well, great wee interview with an FC20 podcaster a couple of hours ago, Gus, who popped on sporting a Rangers jersey as well, which was absolutely fantastic. So we discussed Vaclav Cherny, what we can expect, and we also have a chat about Sam Lammers as well. So you can go and check that out. Right, that'll do us there. Have a good Monday evening, folks, and we'll speak to you again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.